I'm with the International Center for Climate Change and Development in Bangladesh, ECAD is the acronym. I'm also a PhD student in sociology at Brown University in the United States. So I'm here a bit also to talk about the youth perspective on the Chapter 4 and 1.5. And one thing I wanted to latch onto a bit is the idea of transformational adaptation that this chapter really emphasizes. And I think it's an area in which youth can really have a lot of impact, especially young researchers like myself, hopefully. So a lot of what the report talks about is the systems that we currently have in place need to change. So it identifies a number of systemic changes that can be implemented for adaptation and lays out a lot of knowledge gaps that we still have in order to make those changes. And youth, I think, in general, are less tied to the systems we already have in place. They're less sort of set in the ways and more willing to think of innovative solutions to these problems. And I think there's a lot of room to support young researchers, especially those from the global south that are in these vulnerable countries, to make a huge difference and really talk about new solutions and come up with research that can really inform our adaptation efforts in the future. So there's actually a really useful chart, I'm sure most of you have seen it at the end of toward the end of the chapter, that kind of outlines all of these remaining knowledge gaps and research questions, and I think that's an area where young researchers can kind of latch onto those questions and make some real inroads to actually advancing the knowledge we need to achieve the adaptation goals and the transformational adaptation that the chapter outlines. And I think, I do my dissertation research in Bangladesh, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the work that's being done there on adaptation. And a lot of it, there's a ton of youth and young researchers in Bangladesh that are really doing a ton for adaptation efforts. They are coming up with innovative solutions. They are really the people that we should be turning to get ideas for what we need to do next. I don't think it's necessarily people like myself, a young researcher, but from the United States, that is going to provide the solutions for Bangladesh. I think we need to talk to the people there. Bangladesh is a country that's been dealing with extreme weather, dealing with uncertainty and risk for its entire history. So we have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge to learn from them. Something I've also heard in my research, I talk a lot to NGOs and local and international NGOs in Bangladesh about how they're coming up with adaptation solutions. And I've run into the question a lot of, we want to do more innovative work, we want to try new things out, but it's really hard to get funding when a lot of the grants that are available are evidence-based or require a lot of sort of background research to be done in advance. So I think coming up, in addition to supporting these ideas and coming up with innovative solutions, we need to support researchers, perhaps PhD students or master's students, that can sort of test out these innovative solutions and get funding that can then go to support NGOs and folks that are looking to get larger grants, maybe from the GCF, that do require that background evidence base to fund these projects. That's about all I wanted to say, I guess. I think we need to, there's a lot of room in the report to grow in terms of what we're doing in adaptation, and there's a ton of potential avenues that can be identified, which I really appreciate as a young researcher, and I think we can make a lot of inroads if we start actually pursuing what the chapter outlines. Thanks.